Welcome to Watercolor Wednesday, Church of the Palms in Sarasota, Florida. I'm Kathy Futrell, and today we're going to be working with some ocean spray and fun limited palette with seagulls. All right, so today, welcome. We're going to try, this is my inspiration, to be perfectly honest with you. It's a painting that Jim and I bought at Canoga when I was teaching a beginning watercolor class this past March. And Ken Cole, was it Kenneth Cole, Jim? We bid at a silent auction to raise money for paintbrushes for Vincent for Cheap Joe's, and we won quite a few bids, didn't we? This one, I might bring the others and we'll be inspired by them as well. This is an ocean scene, and we're not going to copy that, but that's my inspiration. I have a handout for you that shows different seagulls in flight and on the beach, and ocean waves and sand and sky, and the kind of drama that you get with ocean waves and the color of sand. But I'm going to start with two things. One is sketching seagulls, and two is developing our colors for this painting. Now, this morning I decided, should I give the masking tape another shot? And so I took a roll of this masking tape, and I practiced some of my seagull shapes, and I drew them, and I cut them out, and I laid them out. I'm not sure this is how I want to do the painting today, but I know that you just simply draw on the tape itself and cut it out with a pair of scissors. But there's also other ways of masking, other masking fluids, and I would use something like an acrylic brush, which is very different from your watercolor brush. Your watercolor brush is a short-handled. An acrylic is a long-handled, or oil or acrylic are always like this. They're easier to clean out. You can use some Murphy oil soap, but this, once you put the liquid latex on to paint out your shape, you really got to clean that brush good. And I would never use my watercolor brushes for that, or use any kind of old brush that you don't plan to go back to. All right, so the two things I wanted to do was, first of all, get the two colors that I'm basically going to work from, and I want to make some huge puddles. And I'm going to be doing what is called a complementary color, basically inspired by the warmth in here, which is a brown, a yellow brown, and a very blue gray. Well, by mixing, and I do want to make a lighter kind of warm puddle, and that
you've done the background already.
this is I'm going to show you when I pull it off. I'm going to sketch, but right now I'm just making my puddle. I'm not going to put it on here because this was just an experiment this morning. I'll get to that. No, I'm not going to work on top of this one, but I'll show you what I would do later when I peel this off. So I guess what I need to do is this. My next color is going to be, my cool color is going to be making puddles of different blues. This is my cobalt, okay? This is a Joe's blue. So whatever blues you have, all the blues I think are worthy of using in this approach. This is an ultramarine, okay? So you can kind of see all the differences. Gosh, I cleaned my palette, and look how I'm getting some resist here. This is my cerulean, and this has some white in it, so it's an opaque blue, but it's a lovely blue. All right, so I have options for my warm and for my cool. Now, talking about sketching, my other thing is that because I want us to have fun, and I'm going to be using some alcohol spray, salt, which I'm going to pass around when you're ready for it. And we're going to do splatter. So we're going to create some fun textures on our painting. But honestly, I don't think I'd ever drawn a seagull. So for some reason, I thought they would be really easy to draw, and they're not that easy to draw. So much for that. So so this morning I said, maybe I better practice. So I did sort of look at the body, and I discovered that seagull has, they're not my favorite birds, although as someone pointed out, they are lovely. They're lovely to look at, but they can be, when you are trying to picnic, they can be a nuisance. So they do have a basic body of a bird, but in flight, or even when they're standing up, they do have a coloration. Sometimes they're not all just white. So I start with the curvature of the head. Now, if the wing is up, then you're going to get, I'm imitating what I drew here. The wing is going to go up and then, and it can have some little feathery, it can have, it can just be a straight shape. It has lights and shadow. There's also I noticed this shape. I noticed that the seagull can have a pointy shape to that body, but it can have a fan type tail. And then depending on the angle that you might see, the second wing could be up like this, but there should be some grace to the, so the seagull in flight. Oh, and also it could have its, if they're getting ready to land, they would have their feet kind of dangling back like that. So anyway, I use this little reference sheet to help me with birds in flight. This is one on the beach. This is one on the beach. These are a little difficult to zoom into. Here's a good one here. So I did this with my phone. Also, I just went to seagulls and started looking at lots of photos of birds in flight, and that helped me tremendously get some birds in flight. So I'm going to suggest that you begin drawing where, now this is going to be a sea of splash, and this is going to be an edge of sand. Okay, so I want some kind of diagonal wave, and I might want to suggest that I've got dark in a couple of places, and that way I'm balancing my design, dark, dark, and then on the sand is where I want to put my seagulls. Okay, so I don't know until I start painting sometimes or working this out. You know, I practice my seagulls, and I do say practice your seagulls before you begin to put your composition together. So this seagull is just going to be, I don't like the fact that it's right there where that sand, the tail. This looks like any old bird, doesn't it? I don't think it looks much like a, maybe I make a little more pointy tail to that. Yeah, all right, so this one's in the water, on the shore. All right, but this one, let's see, I want one that's taking off. I'm gonna raise my dark. So I have a place to maybe put a flying bird, but this one's about to land, maybe. I'm gonna have a wing. Now I'm trying to compose here that suggests that the bird, oh, they're coming in together. He's having a conversation, I can tell. He's gonna say, wait a minute, did you pick up a morsel before I got there? Okay, they like their food. All right, let's see. That wing has got to come a little further down. I should have drawn the body before I put the wing on. So you see, it's best to learn from your teacher's mistakes. So keep that in mind. Okay, now this other wing is actually up here. And this bird is coming in for a landing. Anyway, this should be a fun exercise, and it should also be thought out just a little bit. I'm thinking it's okay. When I first started this morning, I thought I should have 3 birds. Now let me show you why I did put the tape on, because that allowed me, or any masking fluid, that allowed me to get a really crisp body shape. Now, yes, the masking tape was a nuisance to cut out, but I did draw on the tape, And if you notice, my tape was kind of narrow, so I had to cut 2 wings and a body and then piece them together. But I was able that way to get the white shapes. But then I began to think, and I can work on this one as well a little bit later. I began to think, well, I think I could paint over the seagulls and put them in shadow, because if you notice here is only a little light hitting the top of the bird. Now here, there's light against light. Here I could see dark shadows, but I also see light. Here I see shadows on the seagull. So I'll just have to see what happens when I begin to do that. So this is the fun part, and I'm going to begin with not wetting the whole thing, but just beginning with a little bit of sky across the top, or maybe this is just the ocean, and each time I want to get different colors. I want some blending as I come down, and when I get, and also want some dry brush with what's going on in the water. So I'm thinking about the ocean waves. Now this was an area I wanted to go dark in, remember? Right through here. So I'm picking up, this is gonna be pretty bold. I'm gonna play with where this wave is coming up, and it's a dark wave. And I want to intermingle some darks in here. And now we'll keep going across. Some of this is wet. And you know, right here, I'm just gonna add water. I'm just gonna add the water. Now before this dries, and start working around here, I'm gonna do one little squirt. Oh, gosh, that was a lot of alcohol. Okay, now this is my salt. Now the alcohol does some mixing here, and I'm just gonna put a sprinkle of salt. See, it's already drying over here. A sprinkle of salt. You don't really need that much, too much. Okay, so it's gonna give some neat textures. Ooh, that alcohol is strong. And now I'm gonna go back to some more dark here, and I'm gonna try to paint around the shape of the bird, because we're able to do that as we move down. Now I'm gonna end up painting the birds, and I want this to have some, I don't want this to be an outline so much. There. This is giving us some dry brush, and it's going to emphasize the bird that's here. I want this also to have a little texture, so I'm coming back on top of that with some dry brush. Let's get some more water going. Oh, I think I want a little dark right here to lead my eye into the subject. So we've got some drama going on, and watercolor is such a beautiful material to do this kind of work with, that you feel a little out of control. At least I'm having that feeling. But at the same time, I know that I can rely on some of these fun accidents that do happen.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Your horizon does not look like a straight line.
No, and this is an ocean wave, and this is ocean. I started to say I was going to do a sky,
So
and the
there's no
truth
horizon.
is there is no horizon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, please consider this as a wave, and you are absolutely right, because if that were sky, it would have,
Yeah,
it would,
good question. I was wondering the same.
that it would have to be straight. And thank you for that, Larry, absolutely. Now, the contrast that gets made here will help.
It's a rough ocean.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is. And I think it's more of the drama just to have fun. Now, you could have started at the bottom and worked your way up. I'm going to put a little bit of the brown through the ocean, and I'm going to put more of the burnt sienna and lighter color
That's okay.
here, and I'm going to draw those feet. So this is all a bit of an angle. And then I'm going to show you how I help this look wet. Now, I'll add a little edge to that, but right now I want to create a sense of a little bit of water reflection. And that's by bringing some strokes down through the sand, especially with the bodies of the birds. And I don't want those to look like paintbrush marks. And sometimes you can do it simply by taking a little water on your paper towel and doing this. And it helps create that water reflection or wetness of the sand. All right, now we've got the birds to do. I want this to dry just a little bit more, so I'm going to come to this painting and show you, and look how different this painting is. It's not quite as dark a contrast. It's still a little bit calmer, perhaps, less contrast. And what I would do when this dries is to come with my little round brush and and you could do this 10 times and it would all be different every single time. I would want this edge of the water to be drawn. Remember, I'm only using what's on my palette in the brown and blue. And I would draw, trying to get a nice dark and a nice brown and a nice blue to mix together to make a dark. Well, that's a little bit too dark, so let me soften that up. So as the water edge and I'm just adding a little water to help that edge, and it helps to draw our eye through this area where the water meets the sand. And now the birds. And I wonder if the salt has to be brushed away. Oh, and one other thing I forgot to do right here is do a little bit of the splatter. This really helps.
Is that blue that you're
This actually is the blue and the brown mixed together. So it becomes a dark blue, it becomes kind of gray. And if you don't like it, you can just lift a few of the spots up. I might even want to go with a warmer color down here. So after I work with the edge here, now I'm going to fine tune with some gray, more of a blue than brown. And I might want to observe some of my seagulls and give them a bit, I want a little rounder point. Create some shadows with the shape and coloration of the bird. It looks like there's still more dark here. And a little point. And the legs of the bird are very dark. They look like they have little knobby knees, but with cute little feet. And then I want to lift a little right here. Give a little bit of an eyeball, kind of a little oval shape there. Oh yeah, that's a bit of a sassy shape. Okay, but I'm letting a little brown blend in right there at the breast as a shadow shape. And a little more blue. And even when this dries, I can come back and put a few more little feather touches. So then this bird too. So if you choose to do a mask, otherwise, then I don't think I want that eye quite that big. And here I have to define the body a little bit. Let's see. I think I was looking at something like this bird for that one. Again, there is some shadows that help to define where that wing is going and where this wing is going. And there seems to be catching some light. I want the blending between the blue and the brown to happen. And the body, down at the bottom of the body. And then with the feathers at the tail. Sometimes I keep looking for this little body shape, and it looks like it sort of gets darker there. And a dark, using less water and more blue-brown, we can get those legs here. It's coming in for the landing. And there's that little eyeball. And he's pretty happy. He has a smile on his face. So there's some wings, some texture here. And a little bit there. I wonder if this is dry enough to suggest a little more. Not quite. And then, so this bird. So this is giving the detail to the bird just a little bit. This bird is definitely getting some shadows. And I think the beak got lost in the masking tape. So I want to add that and put the shadow on the bottom part of the body.
That's the brown, you're still,
It is the brown and the blue, to be honest. A little bit of brown and a little bit of blue. The only two, it is making a gray. It sort of reads like a gray. Now I'm going to take a little water and just, matter of fact, a little more blue for that body. And just get that suggested. And gosh, there's more shadow here than white. But without the masking, unless you paint negatively, and that is around, then you have, of course, to do, you have to keep some of the white to suggest that the sun is striking here. This is rather dark. Again, I'm trying to keep the shape correct and bring that back and leave a little light on the edge of that wing. And you know, right here I have a little problem with the shape of the head. So here's what you have to do when that occurs, because we need that rounded, and my masking tape didn't quite do it. So I'm going to have to go a little darker and paint the shape. And by doing that, then I define the bird itself a little better. And then I just bring it in back into the ocean movement. And here, the lines that I create can help with that movement going on with the ocean. So I think I need a little more contrast in this particular one, but I think you can start to see how the seagulls can add to the action. Here, I'm going to just suggest that you do basically the same thing that I did here with the birds, just following the shapes. And have fun with splashing, with doing a squirt of the alcohol, adding a touch of salt. Decide if you're comfortable painting negatively around and creating. And of course, this I will come back into and do what I did here. All right? Are we ready? Let's do it. Thank you. Have fun.
Absolutely.